Most people grow up believing that success is measured by income. The bigger your paycheck, the more successful you are. It's a simple idea. But once you start studying wealthy people, you notice something strange. Many of them don't even have the highest salaries. In fact, some CEOs pay themselves surprisingly modest wages. So how are they becoming so wealthy? Because they understand one powerful concept. Ownership beats income. Imagine two people. The first is a surgeon earning $500,000 a year. The second owns 20% of a growing software company. This year, the company barely makes a profit. The owner's salary is much lower than the surgeon's. At first glance, the surgeon appears far wealthier. But then the company grows. Revenue doubles, then triples. A few years later, a larger company offers to buy it for $500 million. Suddenly, that 20% ownership becomes worth $100 million. Not because the owner worked 1,000,000 times harder, but because they owned a piece of something valuable. That's the difference. Income pays your bills. Ownership builds your wealth. Think about some of the richest people in the world. They didn't become billionaires because they earned giant salaries. They became wealthy because they owned shares. Shares in companies, shares in businesses, shares in real estate. Ownership allowed them to benefit as those assets increased in value. This principle applies at every level. You don't need to own a billion-dollar company. Owning part in an index fund is ownership. Owning dividend-paying stocks is ownership. Owning a rental property is ownership. Owning a small online business is ownership. Every asset you own has the potential to work on your behalf. The average person spends most of their life increasing income. The wealthy spend most of their life increasing ownership. That small difference changes everything. Imagine receiving a raise. Most people celebrate by upgrading their lifestyle. A nicer car, a larger home, more expensive vacations. The wealthy often celebrate differently. They buy another asset because they know today's income can become tomorrow's ownership. And tomorrow's ownership can create income forever. Here's another example. Imagine you own 1% of a company. The company invents a product that millions of people love. Sales explode. The company becomes more valuable. Even while you're sleeping, your ownership is becoming more valuable. You don't need to personally sell every product. Ownership lets you benefit from the efforts of an entire business. That's leverage. And leverage creates scale. There's another reason ownership matters. Inflation. As prices rise, people relying only on salaries often struggle to keep up. But owners of productive assets may benefit. Businesses can sometimes raise prices. Real estate can appreciate. Stocks may grow alongside company profits. Ownership gives you a chance to grow with the economy instead of simply reacting to it. Another hidden advantage is optionality. Imagine losing your job. If your only source of wealth is your paycheck, that's a major problem. But imagine also owning investments, rental income, dividend stocks, a digital business. Now your financial life doesn't depend on one employer. Ownership creates flexibility. It creates choices. The wealthy value choices more than almost anything. Here's something else most people never think about. Employees compete for raises. Owners benefit from growth. If a company becomes twice as valuable, employees might receive a small bonus. Owners often see their wealth multiply. That's why wealthy people love equity. Equity means owning a piece of something. The piece might be small, but the pie becomes much larger. Your piece becomes much more valuable too. The average person asks, how much does this job pay? The wealthy ask, how much can I own? One question creates income. The other creates assets. Assets eventually create income anyway. That's the irony. Ownership often becomes the biggest paycheck of all. Of course, ownership comes with risk. Businesses can fail. Stocks can decline. Real estate can lose value. Nothing is guaranteed. That's why diversification matters. Many wealthy investors spread ownership across multiple assets rather than depending on just one. They aren't trying to predict the future perfectly. They're trying to participate in long-term growth. The biggest financial shift happens when you stop thinking only like a worker and start thinking like an owner. Instead of asking, what can I earn this year? You begin asking, what can I own for the next 20 years? That one question changes your priorities. It changes how you spend, how you save, how you invest, and ultimately, how you build wealth. Because paychecks eventually stop, but ownership, done wisely, can continue rewarding you for decades. That's why the wealthy don't just chase higher incomes. They chase a larger piece of future, and they do it one asset at a time.